A train reaches the end of the North Island and rolls towards the sea. There is no bridge ahead and no tunnel under the water, yet its freight is meant to continue towards Christchurch as part of one national journey. The missing piece of track is a ship. That is the useful fact behind New Zealand's Cook Strait ferry debate. A rail-enabled ferry is not only a boat, it is a moving section of the country's land transport network. In July 2026, the government confirmed that KiwiRail would operate 2 new Cook Strait rail ferries. The ships were named Kupe and Cook, and they were planned to enter service in 2029. That announcement sounded like a decision about an operator and 2 names. Underneath it sat a bigger question. Why does replacing a ferry take years? New port works, railway changes, and a national argument about freight. Start on a railway siding. A freight wagon carries a container that may have travelled hundreds of kilometres without being opened or lifted. On a rail-enabled ferry, the wagon can roll across a strong moving ramp called a link span and onto rails fixed to the ship's cargo deck. At the other island, it rolls back onto land and continues on another train. Remove the shipboard rails and the water becomes a break in the system. The container may need to be lifted from a wagon to a truck or road trailer before the crossing, then moved back to rail after it arrives. That is called road bridging. It works, but every transfer adds equipment, yard space, time, handling, and another point where a delay can spread. Some customers may decide it is simpler to leave the freight on the road for the rest of the journey. The detail hidden below the passenger decks therefore matters. The Cook Strait service joins the main freight route between Auckland and Christchurch. It also allows railway equipment itself to move between islands. Locomotives, track machines, sleepers, and other heavy equipment cannot simply become luggage on a passenger flight. Without a rail connection at sea, New Zealand risks operating 2 more separate railway systems. The connection began in 1962, when the first interaligned rail ferry entered service. For more than 6 decades, people grew used to treating the North and South Islands as parts of one transport map. The water remained real, rough, and sometimes closed by weather. Operationally, however, freight could cross the gap without the whole journey being redesigned at each shore. An ordinary second-hand ferry is not an easy answer. The Treasury found no suitable used ships available when the replacement program was being designed. A Cook Strait vessel must carry the required mix of passengers, cars, trucks, and rail freight. It must work safely in demanding water. Its length, width, doors, deck height, rails, power systems, and loading arrangement must match what can be built at Wellington and Picton. A ship and its port are a single machine that happens to meet at the waterline. If the ship's door does not line up with the link span, freight cannot roll aboard. If a longer vessel needs a different berth, the wharf must be ready. If more rail wagons arrive at once, the marshalling yard needs room to sort them without blocking local roads. Tides, wind, vehicle queues, railway curves, and passenger access all enter the same design. The replacement program reaches far beyond 2 hulls. It includes marine work in Picton, changes to existing infrastructure in Wellington, rail and vehicle yard changes, and state highway improvements. In Picton, a new road bridge over the railway at Dublin Street was designed to remove a level crossing before larger ferry operations bring more shunting movements. KiwiRail said the bridge work was expected to take between 18 and 24 months. The ships themselves are about 200 meters long and rail-enabled. A fixed-price contract for the pair was signed for $596 million. They were bought for an operating life of about 30 years. Construction was scheduled to begin in 2027, so that the vessels and the shore systems could meet in 2029. 4 years can feel like an extraordinary wait for 2 ferries. In major infrastructure, it is a chain of dependent clocks. Design must be settled before steel is cut. Shipyard capacity must be booked. Engines, electrical equipment, safety systems, and specialized doors have long supply chains. Crews need training. Ports need consent, construction, testing, and a way to keep current services running around the work. Finally, ship and shore must be tested together. The old ferries cannot simply be wished younger while those clocks move. KiwiRail's current passenger ships, Keitaki and Kairahi, have to carry the service to the handover. After a serious power loss incident involving Keitaki, independent maritime experts assessed the fleet. KiwiRail said the ships could continue safely until at least 2029, provided they received enhanced maintenance. That final condition is the quiet center of the story. Maintenance is not a plan to make an old ship new. It is a disciplined way to manage known machinery through a limited remaining life. Parts are inspected earlier, backup systems are tested, failures are studied, and money is spent on assets that will still be retired. It can feel wasteful until the alternative is a broken national link before the replacement arrives. There are other ships on Cook Strait, and coastal shipping can move freight between ports. Those alternatives add resilience. They do not make every service interchangeable. A passenger with a car, a truck operator with a timetable, a rail customer with wagons, and a company sending freight along the coast all need different combinations of capacity and equipment. Resilience comes from useful alternatives, not merely from counting hulls. For most households, the railway deck stays out of sight. People notice the cafe, the view through the Marlborough Sounds, the queue of cars, or the message saying a sailing is delayed. The more important economic work happens lower down, where freight either continues smoothly or meets an expensive break in its route. When a Cook Strait ferry is described as old, late, or costly, look below the waterline and beyond the terminal. The real question reaches beyond whether a ship can cross. It is whether the country's road, rail, port, and freight systems can cross with it. New Zealand has 2 main islands, but it has built one everyday economy. For that economy, the Cook Strait is not empty space between 2 networks. It is the place where a train has to go to sea.